So today we are going to be making baguette dough. The ingredients for that will be bread flour, water, salt, yeast, and malt powder. And the equipment I'm going to be using is a standing mixer, a rubber spatula, and a rubber bench scraper. So I'm just going to start off by adding about 90% of the water into the mixer. This is going to ensure that all of the dry ingredients aren't going to stick to the bottom and we can get all of the ingredients fully incorporated. Next, I'll be adding the flour. I've already whisked in the salt, yeast, and malt powder to ensure that they don't clump up when they hit the water. And now we're just going to start mixing the dough. At this stage, it's really important to make sure you keep checking the consistency of the dough to make sure that it's not too dry. You really need to be adjusting thoroughly throughout this process. Here I'm just going to scrape down the dough to make sure that it's mostly all incorporated, and I'm just going to squeeze it in my hand and feel it and kind of adjust the consistency a little bit. So again, I'm just going to mix the dough and feel it again. To me, it does feel a little dry, so I do want to add more water into it. A little bit at a time works. You don't want to overhydrate your dough. The dough is still feeling a little dry, so I am going to add a bit more water, scrape it down once more, and give it a good mix. And then you're just going to want to keep mixing your dough until you know that all of the water and flour is fully incorporated. At this stage, you are looking for a consistency that is not too wet but not too dry. You really want that perfect in between. You're looking for something, it's going to come together pretty smoothly, and the dough is going to start coming away from the side of the bowl. So at this point, you can see that I did add a little bit too much water, but that is okay because we can fix it later on. But I'm just going to keep mixing it to build up some gluten. Now that I know that all of the water and flour is fully incorporated and it's been mixed together thoroughly, I'm just going to scrape down all of the dough off of the dough hook, off of the sides of the mixer, and I'm just going to put some plastic wrap over the top and let this auto-lease for about 10 to 15 minutes. This is just going to relax all of the gluten and help the flour absorb some of the water in there. Once that 15 minutes is up, we are going to just feel the dough again. Make sure that it's not too wet. So at this stage, my dough is still fairly tacky, so I am just going to initially add a little bit of flour to start off with, and we're just going to mix. This is where most of your gluten development is going to start to form. So you just want to also keep checking your dough at these stages to make sure that it's thoroughly mixed but not overmixed. So since I added the flour, it will come away from the bowl fairly quickly, but you just want to keep mixing through that. We're just going to mix the bread dough on a higher speed until we reach the gluten development that we're looking for. It should start coming away from the sides of the bowl, and we're going to look for a shaggy window pane. As you can see here, the bread dough is pulling away from the bowl, which is a good sign. So now I'm just going to take a piece of the dough so we can test it to see where it's at. And all you're going to want to do is take a little chunk and kind of pull it apart a little bit. And as you're doing that, you want to see how well it holds together or how easily it breaks. So when I do pull on it, it does have a little tear, but for the most part, it is holding its shape fairly well. So we're going to call this a shaggy window pane. It's not fully smooth, but it does hold its shape really well. And this is where we want our bread dough to be at.